Ladies and gentlemen, hustlers of all ages, welcome to the Six Figure Playbook with your host, Alan, the Ace Man Dickie.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm your host, Alan, a.k.a. the Ace Man Dickie, and you are tuned in to another episode of the Six Figure Playbook podcast, and I am super excited to have you along today. You want to know something? Today's episode's an interesting one, but aren't they all? I just finished about a 7-day stretch where I was inside dealerships bell to bell for 7 straight days, changing the lives of sales representatives, or some anyway, and this is kind of what I want to speak to today. It's the exact reason this week's episode is titled, A Means to an End. This is a focal point on something I was discussing a lot this week, and I want to discuss with all of you. You see, in your career, you gotta understand that everything you're doing should be operating from a perspective of it being a means to an end. Let me explain to you what I mean. You see, a brand new sales representative comes into the automotive sales world, let's say, and right from the jump, you need to start taking massive amounts of imperfect actions in the name of building a marketing base of customers that ultimately will be seeking you out to purchase their vehicles and to send their friends and family members to purchase vehicles. And so while that is the end game, on the way there, on that road to being successful in creating that market, there's a lot of actions that you need to be taking. You know, this could include contacting orphan customers that are at the dealership. It includes starting to create social media presences and brands for yourself. I mean, I'm not going to get too far into it, but there's a lot of things, a lot of actions you're going to be taking as you start to build out your career. However, as I go through dealers that I do business with all across the continent, I tend to see the exact same trends, okay? And the trends are this. There's a small portion of the team. Let's say if you have 10 sales representatives, you usually have 4. 4 of them understand this. They understand that everything they're doing is a means to an end. And what a means to an end really is a goal, right? You're early in your career, you're beating the phones up, you're contacting all the orphan customers of the store, you're making cold calls, you're shaking hands, kissing babies, you're doing everything you need to do so that you can get names, email addresses, and phone numbers, cell phone numbers, into a power base that you can continue to provide value to so that over time you will become ingrained in their subconscious and conscious minds as the authority when it comes to the purchase of an automobile. And this is important because you could have a multitude of sales representatives working on your behalf. Yeah, they're your customers, okay? And if you effectively remain top of mind to them when they're out in their worlds and their, lives, if you will, when they hear somebody mentioning, you know what, I'm in the market for a vehicle, you're going to come to the top of their head. Referrals can take place that way, and that's exactly how you can have a multitude of people working for you, okay? Especially your own customers. So with that being said, what successful sales representatives do is they get started in their career, they get started with the game plan, right? And they start to take these actions. And while some of the actions might be unpleasant, some people might say, well, I don't want to make cold calls and I don't want to, approach strangers. They go through these uncomfortable actions because they understand it's a means to an end. They're not committing to this being the method that's going to make them successful for the rest of their lives in this career. I mean, gosh, if they were, they'd be lining up on bridges to take a leap. What they do is they take this disciplined set of actions, the uncomfortable actions, especially early on, and they perform them on a consistent basis, which guarantees their result. It guarantees their end. It guarantees their goal. And the goal obviously being that they won't have to approach cold traffic to generate the amount of leads and opportunities necessary to produce the incomes they desire to deliver everything they want to deliver in their lives to themselves and to their families. So it's about knowing it's a means to an end. You see, when you operate from this perspective, you can also operate under a wonderful principle, which is this too shall pass. That's right. Folks, this thing's called life, and that principle I just mentioned, it goes for the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. But when you're thinking about the infancy of your career as you're building this power base of customers, then that is a wonderful reminder that this too shall pass, that by doing these things, you are going to create a day where there will no longer be necessary. I mean, if I just look at my own career, not only was I doing this as I was selling automobiles, but it's even more abundantly clear when I started my business. You see, when I started my business, the people who knew me in this industry, they knew what I was capable of. And it wasn't difficult approaching them or putting business together with them because they knew what they were getting. But there was a large part of the marketplace that had no idea who Alan Dickie was. I was approaching dealers, to get business, to put myself out there, to let them know who I was, what value proposition I had to deliver to their businesses and their organizations. And ultimately, this is what I was required to do in the name of generating leads, opportunities, and ultimately closing business. I wasn't going to let these things allow me to slide into a negative state of mind. You see, I understood that it was a means to an end. I understood that every uncomfortable interaction I had to throw myself into in the name of building my market was just that. It was a means to an end. That by effectively showing up day in and day out and doing this, ultimately the day would come where I wouldn't need to go and solicit business, and business would in turn come to me. This is exactly the state of things at Alan Dickie Inc. today and has been for quite some time. It's a really beautiful and refreshing feeling. But I want to remind you again, folks, I'm talking this week about a means to an end. Wherever you are in your careers, whether it's your first day or whether you've been in the business 10 years and today is the day that you've made the decision you're going to change, well then today is the day you're going to start to take a lot of actions that you haven't been taking, which is why you've arrived at this decision to change. So I want you to understand, and the message is really quite simple. What a means to an end is, it's about having a goal. It's about knowing that when I start my career and I have to make these cold calls and I have to take these, unique approaches towards cold traffic that aren't the most fun, I'm doing so because it's a means to an end, and that the ultimate goal is I'm going to continue to do this along with a lot of other actions you can be taking in the name of building up your market. I mean, if I'm going to flip the coin for a minute and I want to start talking about management, there's a lot of new challenges that they experience. For example, learning how to purchase inventory, manage inventory that's currently on the lot. Never mind, manage and lead a group of people, human beings like snowflakes where no two are alike. These are a lot of new challenges that can be just that, challenging for a new sales manager. But again, as you go through navigating all of these various duties as a new manager, it's going to be painful sometimes. There's going to be unique situations that come up that you're going to learn, grow, and develop from in the name of becoming a great manager. Now, when you view all of those moments in the infancy of your management career as a means to an end, you're learning as you go so that one day you have this self-sufficient sales team that requires minimal attention, that allows you to work 35 to 40 hours a week in the dealership while having a team that produces among the best in the industry. That is your means to an end. That is your goal. And I know so many managers that get into their management role exactly how I've described. They put their head down and they start grinding. This looks like, bell to bell, working 12-hour days, 7 days a week, all in the name of getting to their goal, to their means to an end. And so by doing so, I know many of these managers who are now general managers and are in some cases owners of dealerships where they're making ridiculous incomes, and they are doing so in a fraction of the time it initially took for them to build this career of theirs up. So listen, folks, this is my message. It doesn't need to be a long one. It's actually quite short and sweet. I want you to start focusing on your end. And I want you to start looking at the current activities you might be doing right now, today, the ones that you're not that big a fan of. And I want you to stay motivated and inspired by understanding that you're taking those actions as a means to an end. Again, the end being your goal. A situation or a status in your career where you no longer have to do these uncomfortable things. You don't need to contact 1,000, cold pieces of traffic for 5 sales. And instead, you can have massive followings in markets that you've created that are constantly blowing up your telephone and are constantly asking you for business and telling you they have referrals to send you. It's all about being top of mind. It's all about creating a market, and it's all about serving that market. And when you effectively build these things and do so, you will start to experience performance levels in your career and paychecks that you haven't even thought of. Trust me. You know, on that note, as I wrap up, I just have this thought in my head and I should share it with all of you, especially to my automotive family. If you are looking on how to exactly, build this market, how to get social presences working for you, you really need to go and check out a couple products of mine. But the number one would be my A.C.E lead generation course. All right, you can find that on my website, or I'll give you a link here. It's www.alanddickey.com/lead generation. Again, you can go onto my website and you'll find the product there. But inside that product and inside that program, what you're going to learn is exactly how I created 7 different revenue streams in my career. Fact of the matter is when I was transitioning from selling automobiles and serving that industry into my business, there was a period where I was not at a dealership but was still able to produce a 6-figure income selling automobiles. Did you hear what I just said? Exactly. There's a lot more opportunity in your career than simply selling the exact model you represent, making a profit, and earning a commission from that profit. Folks, it's a means to an end. Stay motivated, stay inspired, and again, the uncomfortable actions you'll be taking today, continue to stay motivated and inspired to do so, understanding that it is a means to an end. Don't become like a large chunk of people, not only in our business, but in our world, who just accept this as their reality and will forever, year after year, decade after decade, be waiting on floor traffic and be making those cold calls that everybody hates. Don't be that guy. Ladies and gentlemen, that's another episode for us, of the 6-Figure Playbook podcast. Again, your host, Alan the Ace Man Dickie. Always excited to spend time with you. I'll be looking for you next week, and in between, if you're looking for some amazing content that I have available out in the marketplace, check me out on Facebook, check me out on LinkedIn, and check me out on my website. There is an abundance of it there. Until next week, everybody, make it a great week, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.